There is a moment, small, almost laughable, from which 10 years of fire were born. A golden apple. 3 words written on its skin. For the fairest. That was all it took. No army, no declaration, no king giving an order. Just a piece of fruit, thrown by a goddess who wasn't invited to a party, and the world began to end. Before there was war, there was a wedding. The sea nymph Thetis was marrying a mortal man named Peleus. Every god on Olympus had been invited, every god except one. Eris, the goddess of discord. Some say Zeus forgot her, others say he knew exactly what he was doing. Either way, she came anyway. She walked into the celebration uninvited, set the golden apple on the table, and left without a word. The room went silent. 3 goddesses reached for it at the same moment. Hera, queen of the gods. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Each one believed the apple was hers. Each one believed she was the fairest. Zeus refused to choose between them. He was many things, but he was not a fool. So he handed the decision to a mortal, a young man living quietly on the slopes of Mount Ida, a shepherd. His name was Paris. What no one told Paris, what no one warned him, was that he was not really a shepherd at all. He was a prince of Troy, the son of King Priam, abandoned at birth because of a prophecy that said he would be the destruction of his city. They had tried to prevent it. They had left him on a hillside to die. And somehow, he had survived. And now the 3 most powerful women in existence were standing before him, each one offering him a gift in exchange for a single word. Hera offered him power, kingdoms, dominion over men, the greatest empire the world had ever seen. Athena offered him wisdom, skill in battle, victory in every war he would ever fight. And Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world. He chose Aphrodite. In that moment, with that single choice, Paris of Troy signed the death warrant of everything he loved. The woman Aphrodite promised him had a name, Helen. She was already married. Her husband was Menelaus, king of Sparta, and Helen was not simply beautiful in the way that beautiful people are beautiful. She was, according to every ancient source, something beyond category. The face that launched 1,000 ships. Paris sailed to Sparta. Menelaus welcomed him as a guest, treated him with the full hospitality a king owed a visitor. And while Menelaus was away, Paris took Helen and sailed back to Troy. Whether Helen went willingly, whether she was taken by force, whether Aphrodite had bent her mind toward Paris, the ancient world could never agree. But it didn't matter. What mattered was what Menelaus saw when he came home. An empty palace, an empty throne beside his own, and a messenger ship on the horizon, already gone. Menelaus went to his brother, Agamemnon, High King of Mycenae, the most powerful ruler in Greece. And Agamemnon did what kings do when they sense an opportunity wrapped in an insult. He called for war. The Greek world had a system, an old oath, sworn years earlier by every man who had ever wanted Helen's hand in marriage. They had all sworn that if anyone took her, if anyone violated the marriage, every one of them would sail to bring her back. Menelaus called in the oath. One by one, the great kings of Greece answered. Odysseus, reluctant, brilliant, who had faked madness to avoid the war and was caught by a trick he couldn't escape. Achilles, barely 17 years old, sent by a mother who knew the prophecy. He would have a short life full of glory, or a long life full of nothing. Ajax, Diomedes, Nestor, 1,000 ships, the greatest military force the ancient world had ever assembled. And at the shore, before they could even sail, The winds stopped. The fleet was trapped at Aulis for weeks. The prophet Calchas spoke. The goddess Artemis was offended. She demanded a price. Agamemnon's own daughter, Iphigenia. He sent for her under false pretenses, told her she was to marry Achilles. She came dressed for a wedding, and the winds began to blow. The fleet sailed. 9 years passed. 9 years of siege, 9 years of war outside the walls of Troy, and Troy did not fall. The walls were too strong, the Trojans too skilled, and inside those walls, Hector. Hector, eldest son of Priam, brother of Paris, the man who had not chosen any of this and had chosen anyway to defend it. He was everything his brother wasn't: steady, loyal, terrifying in battle, the last wall between Troy and destruction. In the 10th year, everything broke. Achilles, the greatest warrior among the Greeks, withdrew from the fighting. An argument with Agamemnon over a slave girl, a matter of honor. And without Achilles, the Greeks began to lose. His closest companion, Patroclus, could not bear to watch. He put on Achilles' armor. He led the Myrmidons into battle, and Hector killed him. When Achilles heard, something broke in him that never healed. He returned to the battlefield, not for Greece, not for Helen, not for honor, for Patroclus. He hunted Hector across the field of Troy, chased him 3 times around the city walls, while Hector's father watched from the ramparts and his mother tore at her robes. Hector stopped running. He turned. He faced Achilles. It was not a contest. With Hector gone, Troy had lost its soul. The walls still stood, but what they protected was already dying. The war ended not with a battle, but with a lie. The Greeks built a horse, enormous, hollow, made of wood. They filled it with soldiers and left it on the beach as an offering, they said, to the gods. Then they sailed away, or appeared to. The Trojans debated. Some said burn it, some said bring it inside. A priest named Laocoon hurled a spear at it and begged them to think. 2 serpents rose from the sea and killed him and his sons before the Trojans' eyes. They took it as a sign. They brought the horse inside the walls. That night, Troy celebrated. The war was over, they thought. The Greeks were gone. In the darkness, a door opened in the horse's belly. The Greeks poured out into the sleeping city. They opened the gates for the fleet that had circled back under cover of night. Troy burned. Priam was killed at his own altar. Hector's infant son was thrown from the walls. The women of Troy were divided among the Greek commanders like property. Paris, the man who had started it all, had already been killed by an arrow months before the end. He did not live to see what his choice had cost. And Helen? Helen was taken back to Sparta, back to Menelaus. The ancient sources disagree on what happened when they met. Some say Menelaus raised his sword to kill her, and then saw her face and could not. 10 years, 1,000 ships, 100,000 dead.
Because a goddess wasn't invited to a party.
Because a young man on a hillside was asked to choose between power, wisdom, and love. And he chose love. We still tell this story. 3,000 years later, we still tell it. Maybe because we recognize something in it. The way a small moment, a single decision made without understanding its weight, can set fire to everything. The apple was never really about beauty. It was about pride. About what happens when those with power cannot accept that someone else might matter more. Troy is gone. The walls are dust. But the apple is still falling.